Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire. After the violence of the battle and the pathos of the aftermath, the rituals that are to be performed for those who died, the sheer scale of cremation that has to take place. After all that is done with, after it has been revealed to Yudhishthira that he has to offer a very important libation, that to his elder brother Karna, which he realizes only then, and then he pronounces the curse on all womankind that they will now be able to keep a secret forever. Then starts Shanti Parva, where Yudhishthira proclaims that he wants no more of this and he wants to renounce kingship and go the way of the ascetics, and how each one of his brothers persuades him, argues with him, cajoles with him, pleads with him. Draupadi too argues with him, and finally Vyasa tells him his role and also tells him, on his request, he tells him quite a bit about Dharma itself and tells him that he should go to Bhishma. And when Yudhishthira is still a bit hesitant, worried about how he can face Bhishma, Sri Krishna tells him, enough of your insisting on clinging on to guilt and grief. Maharshi Vyasa has told you to do something, so do that. And then the victorious entry into Hastinapura of Yudhishthira and the entire caravan, led by Dhritarashtra in front. They are welcomed by the survivors of Hastinapura. The grand blessing function by the thousands of Vedavits who have gathered there, out of whom there is one person who, in terms of analogy, throws a slipper at Yudhishthira. Saying that he speaks on behalf of all the Vedavits and he calls him names. And then the other Vedavits find out that he is actually Charvaka, Rakshasa, a friend of Duryodhana. And by their Hunkara he is finished. And Sri Krishna also tells about the background of the Charvaka. As we move forward from there to the beginning of the Rajya Abhisheka festival of Yudhishthira. He is going to be crowned king. King Yudhishthira sat on a golden throne facing east. Sri Krishna and Satyaki too sat on a golden throne. On the immediate adjacent sides of Yudhishthira, on jewel encrusted stones sat Bhimasena and Arjuna. On separate large throne made of ivory encrusted with gold sat Kunti along with Nakula and Sahadeva. Vidura, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Sanjaya, Yuyutsu, Dhaumya and all the others sat on their respective thrones. Before the beginning of any auspicious function like this, in fact, even in the beginning of the day, there was a tradition that the king will see auspicious things, touch auspicious objects. King Yudhishtra first did sparsha, touched auspicious objects. He touched white flowers. He touched swastika, which is a holy object, a triangular object. Akshata, he touched the earth, bhumi. He touched gold, silver. A great variety of items needed for Raja Pattabhishekam had been gathered, arranged for vessels full of water from holy rivers all over the country. Flowers, many kinds of holy wood needed for the yajna ceremony. Lots of honey, ghee, conches, all manners of things had been gathered by the order of Sri Krishna. The chief Purohita Dhaumya made a Vedi, an altar for the yajna. He made a Vedi that was slightly lower in the north and the east direction. And nearby, on a four-legged seat named Sarvato Bhadra, Yudhishthira sat for the coronation ceremony along with Draupadi. See, typically we tend to think that a throne means something which has got two hands. The king will sit like this with his legs down. If you even take the peacock throne, the famous peacock throne which was sacked and taken by Nadir Shah, it was not a throne like that at all. In fact, the emperor or the king sits squat on it. Like this, or on the haunches, whichever. I mean, like the regular, typical North Indian way of sitting down on the ground. So we may assume that in this manner, in the Yogastra manner, whatever, Yudhishthira and Draupadi are sitting on the Sarvato Bhadra, golden throne, which is covered with a tiger skin and white cloth. That seat that was encrusted with gold looked like fire itself, on which sat Yudhishthira and Draupadi. Dhaumya lit the yajna fire and commenced the rites associated with the Pattabhishekam. And then later the pouring of the consecrated waters, the Abhisheka ceremony, the pouring of the consecrated waters was to commence, and to inaugurate that, Sri Krishna got up. Special worship had been offered to his conch, the Panchajanya. He inaugurated the Pattabhishekam by filling the Panchajanya with holy waters, and by his holy hands, he was the first one to pour the consecrated water on Yudhishthira and Draupadi. When Draupadi's hair was pulled by Dushasana, that is the complaint that Vyasa makes. The hair that has had the bath of the Avabrata Snanam of the Rajasuya Yaga, that hair has been touched by this monster. Now the holy waters from the Panchajanya poured by Sri Krishna is, even if there is a little stigma left of the clutch of Dushasana's evil hands, He gets washed away forever and ever. After Sri Krishna, Dhritarashtra was the one who poured, and then the others. And there sat Yudhishthira, his face dripping with water. Vaishampayana tells Janamejaya that his face looked so beautiful in the light, with the waters dripping down as if Amrita was pouring from his eyes. Music commenced, and then later Yudhishthira gave away a lot of dana. The elders proclaimed blessings, and then Yudhishthira made an announcement to all the people present there. He said, if I choose to live today, it is but for serving King Dhritarashtra. So those who want to please me must please him. Please serve him just as you have served him before. It is in King Dhritarashtra's happiness that my happiness lies. After the Pattabhishekam function, King Yudhishthira made some key appointments. First, Yaurajyena Kaunteyam Bhimasena Mayojayat. He appointed Bhimasena as the crown prince. Second, after Yudhishthira, Mantre cha nishchaye chaiva षड्गुण्यस्य च चिन्तने विदुरं बुद्धिसम्पन्नं प्रीतिमान् च समादिशत्. Mantre च निश्चये चैव. Mantre as a confidential advisor, as a counselor. षड्गुण्यस्य च चिन्तने निश्चये चैव षड्गुण्यस्य. निश्चये चैव षड्गुण्यस्य. For determining what is the method to be adopted out of the 6 methods of Rajaniti. Sandhi, whether we make an agreement with the other party. Vigraha, whether we declare a war on the other party. Yana, whether we move against the other party. Asana, whether we halt our movement against the other party. Dvaidi bhava, whether we show duplicity, sometimes this, sometimes that to the other party. Or samashraya, whether we seek refuge from the other party. 6 methods, Shadgunya, Rajaniti. So for confidential advice and for determining what should be the method to be adopted, in which circumstances he appointed the great thinker, Vidura. Krita krita parigyan tadhaya vyayap chintane Sanjayam yojayamasa vriddham sarvagunair. As a king, he needs to know a few things. Krita krita parigyane. There is a plan laid out of things to be done. What of it has been done, what has not been finished. Krita krita parigyane. Somebody has to keep track of that. Aya vyaya chintane. You see Aikar Bhavan. What is that? Income tax. Aikar. Aya, income expenditure. To keep track of income and expenditure, to keep track of what budgets have been done, what has not been done. He appointed the elderly Sanjaya. Balasya parimanecha bhaktavetanayost tatha nakulam vyadishad raja karmana chanvavekshane. For measuring the strength of the armed forces and to ensure that they are well provided for in terms of provision and wages, he appointed Nakula. Parachakro parodheja dushtana chavamardhane Yudhishthiro Maharaja Phalgunam Vyadideshaha. to mount an attack on enemies, to crush evil people. He gave that to the charge of Arjuna. Dvijanam devakaryeshu karyeshvanyeshu jaivaha dhaumyam purodhasam shreshtham nityameva samadhishat. To take care of all religious matters, temple matters, he appointed Dhaumya. Sahadevam samipastham nityameva samadhishat tena gopyo hindupati sarvavastho vishampate. And then to Sahadeva. Sahadeva was given the following charge. He was appointed to be the shadow of Yudhishthira. He has to be ever with him. He should be always with him and protect him at all times. Yan yanmanyad yogyanscha yeshu yeshviha karmasu tan teshveva yuyuje priyamano mahipatihi. He's telling the management principle adopted in all these appointments. Yan, whoever Yogyascha is fit for whichever job, yeshu karmasu, whichever job, whoever is appropriate and correct for, tan teshu eva yuyuje, those only Yudhishthira appointed that person to do. They were pleased, he was pleased.